So I don't know about
back in action.
you guys, but has there been a lot of requests for in-office meetings? Every once in a while, I get a person that gives me a call and says, yeah, I want to meet in person. We're not doing that right now.
With some of my family law cases, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a number of clients that are English as a second language. Some of it's a little harder to meet remotely. Some of them, but not all of them.
Yeah, most of our family law clients want to meet face to face. At this point, it seems like criminal defense is kind of put on hold for a while.
Yeah, the criminal defense world, the nice thing is, we've had plenty of incidents where either the officers have decided to sit on the charges before sending them over to the prosecutors, or the prosecutors have decided to sit on it before filing. And in some cases have reached out and said, yeah, just so you know, this is coming,
Right.
but we're not going to do it while the epidemic or pandemic is going on. We're going to until things start to roll out, but we're definitely filing before the statute.
Yeah.
So has family law, are they still doing some hearings over Zoom, or what's the activity that they still have?
We've had a lot over the phone, actually. I know I have one over the phone coming up on Friday. I did have one over ITV. But yeah, other than that, they're not really having people come in.
Makes sense. Are you guys doing HROs and OFPs as well?
We do. Yeah, we haven't had any. We haven't had any since probably before this pandemic started. But I know that they are still hearing those cases. I guess they're pretty high priority cases, given that some of, especially OFPs, can be such a that can be such a quick turnaround.
I had an OFP signed last week, maybe the week before already. And that went pretty quick, but I did hear from another attorney that their hearing, their OFP hearing had been put on hold. So the order was granted, but I think the respondent requested a hearing.
They got the ex parte going through pretty smoothly, but follow-up hearings.
Yep.
Good morning, guys. This is Amin Harun joining the meeting. I've had a technical difficulty logging in from my computer, so I'm on the phone. Hello, everybody.
Good morning, Amin.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Morning.
Good morning.
And is everybody FaceTiming, or is it, or some people are on the phone as well?
Can you guys hear me? Hello.
I can hear it.
Hey, Marcos.
Hey, good morning.
Yep.
Good morning.
I'm gonna have everyone muted, and then to speak, press the space bar so we can hear you. It just helps with the background noise.
Fantastic.
I moved all of our YouTube viewers back over to the Zoom meeting, so we'll give them a second to log in.
Hey, Mike, do you have the
What's that?
I had somebody requesting the Zoom link, and I don't know where it's at other than the one that I used to come in as a panel.
Yeah, let's see. Just dropped it into chat. You'll be able to join right from the registration page there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good folks, about 1 more minute. I like the aurora. That's a nice touch.
Yeah, the active and moving backgrounds really get a kick out of it.
It actually helps, I think, quite a bit. The generic office background, when you have 25 people on a meeting, it's a little easier to manage, I think, who's who when you have everyone with a little more unique background, I think.
Is there a way to move the individual screens around and kind of reorder people?
I don't know. A little manage your Brady Bunch. I don't think so. But you know what? I learned something new about Zoom every day these days. So.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago that I learned that nice secret spacebar mute issue.
That's the best tip ever.
For those that aren't aware, if you're muted, you can hit the spacebar to unmute for a brief moment and then go right back. Nice little hotkey.
So we'll go ahead and get started. I think what we've got. We'll watch the chat and keep you informed. I think. Well, let's just get started. Let's do it. Welcome everybody. Thanks for chatting with us as we get warmed up for our business as usual podcast. We're joined today by my co-host Landon. Thanks for coming to join us again, Landon. And as you can see, we've got a whole group of additional folks. Our guests today are from CCLI, the Collaborative Community Law Initiative. I say the CCLI wrong every time, but Karin Ciano, the former executive director, is on with us. She's going to straighten us all out and let us know a little bit more about this nonprofit incubator housed over at the Mitchell Hamlin School of Law. I'm very excited to have you all with us today. I'm very eager to talk about how you folks are incubating and how you're developing your business model to accommodate things like low-bono and limited scope representation, and how that's actually part of a successful business plan. So very excited to have everyone here. I will hand it off to Karin. Karin actually has slides for today's presentation, from what I understand. Karin, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about what CCLI is all about.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome, everybody. I am a lawyer, and I have a sole practice, and I'm also of counsel to a probate litigation boutique, Mason and Helmers, over in St. Paul. I am a litigator by trade, which means that I am currently undergoing the existential crisis of what is a litigator for when the courts are closed. Just trying to get my head around that. And for a period of about 1.5 years, I was the executive director of CCLI. I am still its program director and on the board. It is a phenomenal organization, and it is my privilege to work with the lawyers who are here on the screen with me, as well as others, in really trying to close the justice gap in Minnesota. And so since I come prepared, I am going to share screen and just walk you very quickly through a set of slides, after which I feel confident you will have a clear sense of what CCLI is all about. And then I understand that Landon and Mike are going to kind of moderate a discussion amongst the advocates of how they offer the kinds of services to middle income Minnesotans. So stand by, here we go. All right, so CCLI, we have a referral phone. You can see it down here. And let's see, trying to, pardon me a second, because I thought this was going to work better than it is. Here we go. So access to justice, not just a problem for the poor, also a problem for the middle class as well. It matters because democracy depends on people having access to the third branch of government. Pro bono, many lawyers don't always realize this, is for persons of limited means. That's in the rules of professional conduct, and that actually has a specific meaning. If you make more than 200% of the federal poverty guidelines, you are not eligible for free legal services. That is, whether it's free by a volunteer through a program or free by a legal aid, you are not eligible at this income cutoff. And so what do folks above that cutoff do? It's a fair question. $25,000 a year is too much in some circumstances. And yet most Minnesotans make more. And so they are outside the reach of legal aid. A single parent, I think this is from Deed, with 2 kids, needs $77,000 a year to meet basic needs. And basic needs don't typically include paying lawyers. So we have this problem as a bar, how do we make our services accessible? Well, we're not doing such a great job because the market rate is very high. I'm not telling anyone you should lower your fees. I'm just saying, this is the backdrop against which we all practice. And very few people can afford $300 an hour. I know, because I talk to my own clients and I get to hear it from them. So if somebody who is earning $25,000 a year doesn't get free and can't afford most private law firms, what's the option? What can they do? Well, in fact, what happens is they represent themselves. And these are statistics from probably a couple of years ago in Minnesota. 76% of civil cases have at least one party who does not have a lawyer. When you get into family court, those numbers increase. I think we're above 80, maybe even close to 90. So, self-representation has become the rule, not the exception. And I think a lot of lawyers, certainly lawyers of my vintage, are surprised to hear that because we imagine a system where everyone's got a lawyer on both sides. Unfortunately, we actually do make a difference. Lawyers give better outcomes, and self-represented litigants definitely could do better if they had legal advice. It's that middle 60% that is struggling because they are not able to hire a lawyer of their own. And the reason why is just, the cost relative to other needs is prohibitive. If they could afford it, they would hire somebody. And a survey done in Colorado a few years back, asked these self-represented litigants, well, what's the reason? Some people, they want a DIY. Some people would, they want to maintain control of their case, but most people said, it's all about cost. Okay, so what can we do to make cost less of a factor? Well, one thing, and this is what these guys on the phone with me are going to talk about, is rethinking our product. Can we offer sliding scale fees, unbundled, or other low bono options? Low bono, this is from Washington State, is the principle of increasing access. People who don't qualify for pro bono, but are in that justice gap and can't afford full freight fees. And what I'm going to talk about for the next 30 seconds or so is the incubator, which is the delivery system. And the incubator is aimed at trying to create more small law firms. A survey, actually a study done by Professor Juergens at Mitchell Hamlin back in 2012, revealed that that middle 60% in Minnesota is typically served regularly only by small law firms, 1 to 7 lawyers. These are the folks who are actually delivering the services. So how do we get more solo and small firms? And the answer is, just like for small businesses, you create an incubator that will make it possible. Incubators, we're actually part of a bigger trend. They're all over the country. These numbers may even be higher now, but Minnesota has only one, and it's us. CCLI was founded by Mitchell and Hamlin back when they were separate schools, and then the schools actually merged after that. So it kind of started out as a 2-school incubator that is now a Mitchell-Hamlin incubator. And basically what it offers, we have mentors, referrals, and a community. And you can see our community in the window. Our lawyers offer sliding scale, limited scope, and flat fees with an eye to making individual services more affordable. And then, you know, the process is very simple. People with legal needs call our line. We refer them to somebody who's in, you know, on the screen with you. They commit to providing low-bono services, and we connect them with mentors. So our advocates get mentorship and hands-on practice experience serving real clients in real cases right away. Our mentors have a chance to share their hard-won wisdom and build their networks and referral sources. And clients win. Clients get affordable legal help. So that's what CCLI is all about. If you want to learn more about the details of the program, my email address is on my Zoom screen. These are some areas where we work as well as in others, and I would be delighted. Feel free, you know, you can help us by referring cases, by connecting us to more referral sources, and by mentoring our lawyers. And that's what I got.
Thanks, Karin.
So quite a bit there to unpack. If I could, I'd start it out with one question. You know, from our meetings, what was it? I think it was last week where we discussed kind of greater Minnesota, outstate Minnesota, whatever you want to call it. Is CCLI helping attorneys in small solo practices move away from the Twin Cities? How does that work? Is that addressed?
We would like to. Thus far, we are limited by the number of attorneys who actually, you know, are going into those communities, but we're definitely open to it. And we have assisted attorneys who are outside of the Twin Cities metro. It really, what it takes is a Mitchell-Hamlin grad who wants to move into Greater Min and be part of the incubator. But we would love to have that because we get calls from all over.
So what's the process if there's a student that says, hey, I'd like to do solo small work? How does that student become a part of the incubator program?
Well, they hear about it. There are classes they can take, including the practicum that Professor Sonstein was talking about. And also, I have taught a solo practice residency in the past. Leanne Futh teaches lawyer as business owner. Hands up, anyone in the boxes? Have you taken one or more of these? Yeah, that's what I thought. So that's typically how people find out. And some folks have their solo epiphany later. And so they reach out to us after they've graduated.
I have a question for the panel, for the participants. Landon was talking about the rural practitioners. We've been talking with Michelle Stotts from Duluth about rural access to justice. We've been talking to John Sonstang about the various things you don't necessarily get to learn in law school about running a law office. I'm interested to know a little bit about what you think about the legal market and the challenge of adding in these low bono services. So I've often heard reference to the latent legal market. This idea that 60% that Karin is talking about actually represents a business opportunity for attorneys. I wonder if each of you could speak a little bit to that about how you incorporate that 60% into your business plan. And is it truly a latent legal market, or are these only people who are really in need of legal aid?
Yeah, so I mean, we incorporate unbundled legal services. It's a lot of what we do, which is basically, you know, if someone wants like a letter drafted and they don't necessarily need someone to represent them the whole way, we'll maybe offer them a lower rate at a flat fee to draft a demand letter. And that's kind of how we serve that population. That's one way we do it.
Don't forget to introduce yourself and pitch your firm.
Yep. So my name is Dan Mcguire. I am a partner at Ram Law. I opened up with two other law partners in November of 2019, and we practice primarily family law and criminal defense. And feel free to check us out online at www.ramlawmn.com.
I'll follow up on what Dan was saying, if I may. I'm actually one of Dan's partners. I also work at Ram Law. We're located in Roseville. My name's John Roach. Dan Mcguire is one of our partners, and our third one is Alan Alzuhaley, who's not with us here today. But we all are members of CCLI. We joined pretty close after we started our practice. I think we joined CCLI in January, and have been kind of focusing our practice on low-bono clients since then. Rather than just being kind of like a loss leader or something that is a smaller part of our business model, it actually has been a pretty significant piece of our business model. And that doesn't mean everybody qualifies for the lowest hourly rate or lowest flat fee rate, but it does mean that we're kind of income sensitive on how we approach almost all of our clients. So depending on what their income is, we're going to base our fees off of that. And I think we've found that that's been financially successful for us thus far, both in terms of the flat fees or unbundled services that we provide, but also just especially in the family law arena, basing our rates, our hourly rates off of client income. And I think we found that there has been a pretty big market for that, where there's a lot of people who maybe can't pay our highest hourly rate, but can come up with something a little bit on the lower end. And that's worked well for us, getting, as a fledgling law firm, starting off and getting a lot of clientele, and also for them, where we're able to provide legal services to them where they would have been pro se if we had not been. So far, I think we've seen it's been a win-win, both in our practice and just financially, I guess, running our business.
And for the rest of the folks, I'm wondering if this requires you to. Does it place more demand on your business to be more efficient with your time? I'm wondering if at this end of the market, there's more churn, to put it indelicately, I guess. But is this more work that is high volume, low margin kind of work? Or is it like any other practice, you're just offering a lower price point?
I guess I'm going to just say I'm not sure. I come from law enforcement where we're paid hourly, but it's not, the same rates as attorneys. So it's a very different thought process for me to be thinking in terms of how do I bundle my services so that I can be affordable to our folks in that 60% that we're trying to hit in CCLI. I would say most of my clients, probably 80% of my clients, are below that 300% federal poverty guideline, and some are even below that 100% of the federal poverty guideline. So they would qualify for legal aid, but for one reason or another, they just can't get a legal aid attorney. I will say, you talked a little bit, Landon, about the outstate and what's happening in the outstate market. We, like Karin said, we do have clients call from all over the state, and they're looking for a lot of times full representation, but can't afford, or think they can't afford, really, in some cases, a $2,500 retainer. So even bringing that retainer down, they do wind up paying my bills. That really hasn't been a problem. But sometimes just bringing that retainer down to, I just asked for 1,500, and that's more doable for a lot of the clients. I will talk about some of my outstate clients that they're just amazing people. One of the issues that I have is, if I'm traveling for 2 hours, I'm going to be billing for that 2 hours. And I have to tell that to my clients right up front. And sometimes they just say, you know what, just do it. And to me, I would love to have folks outstate in Minnesota that we can kind of partner with. And maybe that person can appear in court so that I'm not making that 2-hour travel time where I'm going to be charging them, $300 just one way to get to that court date, especially if it's just a 15-minute hearing or something. So I think that's one way that we can partner with some of our folks outstate. But I think it's one way that we can bring costs down. In some of those cases, one of them started as an unbundled service with a demand letter, charging her a very low flat rate just to get that demand letter out to get what she needed done. And it's a fairly profitable case for me at this point. And I've also had to assist her in hiring 2 other attorneys, just because it was matters that I couldn't do myself for one reason or another. So I would definitely say that market is there, but being able to get to those folks, it really is an untapped market.
I think to Mike's question, this is Amin Harun. I am one of the advocates of CCLI. I have opened up my own practice, Harun Law Office, in South Minneapolis, the beginning of November 2019. It has been a wonderful experience to participate in this incubator. It's just, as a new solo lawyer, kind of starting out. I worked for government before that, and I was getting paid hourly, like Kathleen said. And starting out, it's just a trove of clients. I understand that my clients are not the richest and they're not paying the highest, but it's kind of like a mentality shift for me is to, instead of putting myself, on a pedestal and saying, that's where I'm at, it's more about where the client's at. If my client is able to pay some money, I'm able to work with them. And there has not been a shortage of clients. It's obviously the churn you talked about. At times I think about that, and it's true that you get to serve a lot more clients than if I was maybe charging a lot more money, and that would eliminate a lot of people from coming to my office. But it's more fulfilled life. I feel like I'm doing a meaningful work and I'm getting paid for it. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, and hi, my name's Marcos Ramirez. I'm an attorney here at my office, Nexum Legal. I provide business and immigration advice, right? And I'm located in Bloomington. So I concur with all the ideas here, but there is something that before I decided to do all this, I needed to actually understand what my business model was, right? One thing that, and I actually was looking at it, is this book. I read this book. It provides a lot of different ways to understand the structure of a law firm, the type of law firm that you have, because certainly it would be very challenging to provide this kind of new fees arrangement or AFEs if you don't understand your own firm. However, after doing that, one of the things that in order for me to have the option to my clients access to the legal services was, okay, I need to reduce my costs, right? At the beginning, I wanted to have my big firm in downtown Minneapolis. That's what you want to have. All the nice downtown Minneapolis, beautiful firm with glasses and everything, love it. But of course, high expenses, right? Now we feel the pain. I was I was talking with my wife about this last night, because one of the best decision, especially right now, was okay, I didn't get my nice office in downtown Minneapolis because I don't even use it nowadays. So I started to implement system that will reduce the amount of time. Like a lot of people are getting used to having FaceTime meetings with clients. I have done that before. I don't need to drive and meet with my clients. I don't need to tell them to come and sign the papers. I send them already e-signature for them to follow. So I reducing the amount of expenses, and I trying to be more productive in order to have them access to a low cost legal services, right? However, it's challenging to offer this in a lot of different practices. My practices, I have the advantage that immigration has always been, or at least the tradition has been, flat fee. So in one way, clients appreciate what they're gonna pay at the end. They have the mentality that by knowing that they're gonna pay certain amount of money, we can call it 1,000, 3,000, whatever, they will have access to you directly. They don't feel that if they call me or they send me an email, I will charge them more. So that opened the door to a better way to communicate with your attorney. So think about this. How can you make $1 million? My goal is to make $1 million firm, right? By offering low bono services. So if you think that the average case, let's say between $1,000 and $3,000, let's call it $3,000, right? And you get 300 clients and make them pay $250 per month, at the end of the year, you will have close to $1 million. So that mentality of having a client to pay you thousands and hundreds of thousands of money for you to have a profitable firm will move away when you start looking at, okay, I actually work with my clients too, and I don't want to take too much time, but there's so much information. I work with my client, even if they are above poverty line. I work with them because even they make money, but they cannot afford pay up front, or the retainer fees too high. Well, I work with them. Okay, let's have a monthly payment of $200, $150, so it's more accessible for them. Okay, I can hire you. You can walk me through the process. I offer a menu too. So if my practice is 70% immigration and 30% business, and within the business portion, I provide civil litigation, right? So I unbundle the service. I talk to them, and I recently have a case when I just say, okay, let's only work on the settlement portion, and if we don't settle, we talk about next. So just by being creative, just to answer your question, by being creative and having your client focused firm, it will help with the process.
So I have a question. I mean, I think we're approaching and battling two different problems, and you guys are approaching it from both ends, and I think that's fantastic. One is, of course, we have people that are just graduating, trying to get up and running, trying to get business started, and we have the incubator there, getting attorneys practice, getting them clients, getting them going on solo practitioner. On the other side, we have individuals that need those services and can't afford the $300 an hour. So my question is, where's our bottleneck right now? Is our bottleneck the fact that we don't have enough students joining a CCLI or a CCLI program? Is the bottleneck we don't have enough mentors, or we don't have a good pipeline for the clients that need it to get connected with the attorneys? What's the bottleneck that we're dealing with right now?
Well, if just my 2 cents, and it's just, I think it's the mentality when you go to law school that you just want to work for big law, and that big law is the solution. That's just my 2 cents.
I would add to that. I think that that's partly true. But I would also say that some of the mentality that I hear from attorneys, and particularly from attorneys who are leaving the field, is that they're not happy with what they're doing. There's this feeling that you need to be charging $300 an hour or more, or you're just not worth anything if you're not charging that much. And I think that I think it's important to remember that being a lawyer is a service, and it's a privilege to be able to be licensed, to be able to advocate for people, to get them some of the services, some of the access that they need. One of the things, I keep going back to my experience as a police officer, but one of the things that we did every single day was read orders from courts, a lot in family law, about what needs to happen. And you'd hear from people and they tell you their stories and they tell you about their situations. One of the things that a lot of people just don't understand is that they have to get that information in front of the judge in order for it to be heard and to be understood and to have that case taken into consideration. And people just don't really understand that. And so getting that information to an attorney and talking to an attorney about that and having that attorney help you with that case is so important. And I just can't emphasize that enough. And I just think it's really important to remember that that's one of the reasons that we do this job.
Harun, again, I would just add that I think one of the bottlenecks is that the program is relatively new to the state, and it's not just widely available across the state. So not enough attorneys that are practicing in this area, and not only the numbers, but also the geographical spaces, because we have just one incubator in Minnesota that's in the Twin Cities. So the rest of the state's not necessarily getting advocates who have this kind of mentality of providing low-bono services to clients all across the state. So I think that's probably one of the issues. Obviously, seconding the suggestions by Kathleen and Mr. Ramirez as well. So I think this is just a new experience, and the more attorneys that we provide, the things will change in the future, but that's what I see as the bottleneck right now, is that we get calls from all over the place, and it's sometimes hard to go to places that are 2 hours or an hour and a half away to serve a client while you're already extremely busy here in the Twin Cities.
If I may take the liberty of chiming in very briefly, because this is a topic near and dear to my heart. The problem is not enough clients, because there are tons of people calling, and we get more every month. The problem is, number one, growth takes time. It takes time to learn how to practice law, takes time to learn how to run a law firm, takes time to build a practice. So it's not like, we're not a law firm where we can just hire people, plug them into jobs and go. We're actually trying to spin off entrepreneurial businesses that go out and do it for themselves. And that's just it's a process that takes time. Since we went operational in November of 2016, we have had in our program 17 new lawyers. And, the goal is to have, it's a high touch program, have a handful of them every year. What prevents us from scaling more, I think, is just the fact that there's not, this is not everybody's cup of tea. So we want to try to capture the people who are most interested in it. And frankly, we'd love to have more mentors, more volunteers on our board, more people, helping us think about how to structure this and solve the problem. So if you think, anyone watching wants to get involved, my email's right on the screen. Feel free to be in touch. If you'd like this, I would be delighted to talk with you.
And I know that we're at now 8:34, so we'll see about getting that CLE code. Thank you everybody for attending. We typically go over a little bit, but I want to recognize that we have hit the 8:30 and people are in a rush to go somewhere. But other thoughts and topics on bottleneck or other questions?
We've got a question in chat from Henry. Any advice for established attorneys who may want to incorporate low-bono services?
I'll offer my first test as an established attorney. You should find a way to means test your clients. I think the biggest mistake that solos make is, we will give discounts or do low bono just because somebody looks sad or they're a friend or, whatever. But you should have a formal process with criteria of this is when I'm going to offer low bono and this is when I'm not, and this is why. And if you tie it to income and get information about income, it makes it a whole lot easier for everybody.
Let me jump in. I know we're over time. I do want to ask one question just about the CCLI and the community of incubators generally. Marcos was saying that, it's hard to, as a new attorney, establish these AFAs, the alternative fee agreements, typically because I'm guessing you don't have the underlying data that says this is what the average cost is going to be, and you don't know what triggers an outlier. Is CCLI or the broader community sharing? Are you folks sharing data with one another about your matters? However you anonymize that, I don't know. But are you sharing data with one another and with other incubators across the country so that we can incorporate those kinds of things and even, share it with the more established attorneys to say, hey, this is possible to do, and we've got an underlying data set that is open source? I don't know what.
We're working on gathering the data within a cohort. Like you see here, folks share a lot of information, generally. But we have not, one of the things we are working towards is to have data gathered and accessible and open for study on a lot of topics. So yeah, we'd love to do that.
As far as you've talked a little bit about having mentors for the new attorneys that are getting up and running. How has that process been going? Where have you been getting the mentors? Are there needs for mentors in certain areas of law? What are your thoughts?
I think this is what I'm going to turn over to the advocates, folks. We have wonderful people who have volunteered to take questions, be shadowed, take phone calls. And oftentimes it's just a question of identifying who needs what. And I'm kind of like the switchboard who plugs people in. But I think also what's been really wonderful is to watch organic mentoring relationships develop. And so I'd be interested to hear from the advocates, how you're finding mentors.
Yeah, so we have an app on our phone that where we can basically log in and find the mentors. I mean, in my practice, I know like I didn't take family law in law school, and the mentors in that area have really helped me kind of learn more about that area of law. And if I ever have a question, I feel comfortable reaching out to them, and a lot of times new relationships are formed, and sometimes they'll invite me for lunch, or I'll take them for lunch, and yeah, it's really been a cool thing.
So I would add that some of the mentors just develop from relationships that I've already had or people that I met while in the program. But whenever I needed one in specific areas, I've recently been looking into developing my small business clientele, and we have Friday mastermind meetings lately on Zoom, and we talk about all kinds of topics. So I bring that up, and I always get connected to a mentor who specializes in that area or whatever other areas that I brought up before to connect with. And then I follow up with them for coffee, for lunch, or just a face-to-face meeting since the COVID-19 on Zoom or other social media platforms. So, I mean, it seems like a lot of attorneys who are willing to do that, and we are grateful for them. But the more, the better, I think.
Absolutely, and I think I agree with Amin completely on that. We can never have too many mentors or providing advice to us as newer attorneys. You know, both on the side of building our practice, but also you know, substantively in each area of law. Karin has really done a great job of finding some really you know, talented and high quality mentors for us so far, and even, you know, so we spent a lot of time, I think, reaching out to those folks, but when they don't know the answer, sometimes they'll even have you know, some other suggestions on, oh, here's somebody that would know that answer to that question. And so not only do the mentors that we kind of connect with directly often have the answers, they always know where to go if they don't have that answer directly. It's been incredibly helpful, a great resource.
Oh, shucks, John, you're making me blush. I do try to find people who are subject matter experts in different practice areas, but also, whenever possible, people who have experience in smaller firms, because I think sometimes, you know, having multiple perspectives from different practice settings can be helpful. So anyone is welcome to be a mentor, whatever your practice setting, whatever your subject matter. Just reach out to me. I would love to talk with you.
And I would just add, maybe sometimes even we mentor each other. I think just within the advocates, we reach out to each other when we know somebody who's practicing in specific areas. And I've reached out to my colleagues more than once, and they have reached out to me about certain areas. So we also kind of, as a community, share and kind of become mentors to each other.
I will add to that, and I don't think I introduced myself, but I'm Kathleen Gomez. My firm is in New Hope, Gomez Law. I have found through CCLI some great friends who started out as mentors and started out as attorneys in the program, and who, you know, I was on the phone last night with one of them for about an hour and a half, just talking through some of our cases, talking through some of what we're going through, and really in the process learning from each other and connecting. And that's such a great thing to be part of. I've talked to a lot of attorneys who maybe graduated before 2016, before CCLI was a thing, and who have said, man, I really wish there was a program like this when I started, just because it does provide so much more really than you can just put onto a screen and to articulate. There is that, it is a community and it is collaborative, even though we do have our own practices and sometimes we oppose each other in court. But it really is helpful to have that as you're starting your own firm and embarking on something completely new and completely different and with a lot of rules.
Yeah, and I just want to add, if you don't have the pleasure or honor to know and have as a friend Karin Ciano, don't be afraid, because you can develop friendships at work. If you, let's say that you work for a law firm, right? You can develop friendship that in the future might be your mentor. It happens to me. Or in law school mates, right? After law school, I have a really good friend who went to law school and has been my mentor too. I mean, as long as you keep developing those relationships, and don't be afraid, because one thing that we have to recognize, it unfortunately in our legal industry, is the ego, right? You want to be the best attorney, the best knowledgeable attorney. You don't want to recognize that you don't know something, but recognizing that you don't know something actually will help you to open the door to find a good mentor.
Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate you all participating so early in the morning. I'm going to wrap it up for our folks who are joining us online. Marcos loved the logo, by the way, in the background. Thanks for adding that. I'm going to paste in the event code into chat. half credit for this event. Next week, we're on at the same time. I hope you all join us. We'll be with our new Advantage partner, Law Clerk. Check them out if you're not familiar with them, but we'll be talking with a representative from really kind of cool outsourcer tool, originally out of Nevada. Kind of an interesting group of folks over there. Excited to have them aboard. So join us next week. I'm going to just drop in. Karin, did you want to maybe, you're all welcome to paste in your contact information in the chat if you like. If folks have questions for follow-up, feel free to paste in your contact information and so folks can follow up with you.
Thank you, everybody. This has been fantastic, and I always love hearing more about CCLI.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good day, everyone.
Thank you, guys.